Okay, so I'm going to go over the congruence quiz with you guys. So if we look at number 1, you can see that these two angles right here are vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. So these two must be congruent by side, angle, side, because the angle is between the two sides, meaning it's the included angle. So the answer cannot be A or B. And then a way that I like to do so I can check those corresponding part statements is I like to write my congruent statement. So I know triangle SUT is congruent to triangle, and since side SU is congruent to side YU, U has to be in the middle for both triangles since those are congruent angles. Instead of it being UY, it would be YUD. So once I've written that statement, it makes it a lot easier for me, and I can decide between C and D. I can tell that answer C would be wrong because SU would be congruent to UY, or to YU, not UY. So the answer must be D. Okay, let's look at number 2. So if you look at number 2, you have 2 corresponding congruent angles and 1 corresponding congruent side, meaning that it's going to be angle, angle, side. It's not going to be angle, side, angle because order matters, okay? So the only answer choice that it can be is C. There is enough information because I know that they're congruent by angle, angle, side postulate. There's no other answer choice that has that postulate, so I don't even need to check the statements. Now, on number 3, we know that, hold on, I'm trying to get it to scroll up and it's not letting me do it. Not highlighter, just, whoa. Sorry guys, first time. Okay, so if we look at number 3, it asks us to write the congruent statement, finish the congruent statement for triangle ABD. Well, triangle or angle A is congruent to angle C. We can see with the 1 tick mark. So the first letter has got to be C. And then if B is right here, B is going to be in the middle for both. And then you can see that angle D is congruent for both triangles. So it's got to be CBD. Number 4 says to find the measure of the 2 missing angles. So we can see that this is an isosceles triangle because of the 2 tick marks, meaning that it has 2 equivalent sides. If a triangle has 2 equivalent sides, then the 2 base angles must be equivalent by the base angles theorem. So we know we're going to be using the base angle theorem, so it's going to be A, B, or C. Now, the 3 angles in a triangle add up to 180. So if we do 180 minus 40, you get 140 degrees left. Now we have to split that between both of these angles because we know they're going to be congruent. So 140 divided by 2 is 70 degrees. So both angles will measure 70 degrees because of the base angles theorem, because we know it's an isosceles triangle. Number 5, it says if J is congruent to K, which could be one of the angles measures. A lot of people miss this problem because they didn't answer the question being asked or actually work it out. These 2 angles are same side, sorry, this pen isn't writing very well, interior. Same side interior angles are supplementary. Supplementary means they add up to 180. So I need to make an equation, and I saw in a lot of people's quizzes that there was no work shown or done for this question, so I was very confused as to how you even attempted it. People are trying to do things in their head, and that's how we make those mistakes. So a lot of people set them equal to each other. These are not congruent angles. They add up to 180. So I need to add both of these expressions. Excuse the handwriting. And solve for x. So if we combine like terms, 3x and 2x, we have 5x, negative 15 and positive 10 makes negative 5 equals 180. If you add 5 to both sides, 5x equals 185. Divide by 5 on both sides, x equals, I believe it's 37. trying to do it in my head. Yes, 37. So a ton of people picked B because they did it in their head, or they not did it in their head, but they did this, they solved for X, so they picked B. That's a distractor. Okay, you have to answer the question being asked, which is one of the angle's measures. All right, so we've got to plug it back in. So it says one of the angles. So I'm going to just plug it in for 3x minus 15 and see if I can figure that one. So 3 times 37 minus 15. If I put that in my calculator, I get 96 degrees. That is not one of my answer choices. So let me plug it into the other one. 2x plus 10, it would be 2 times 37 plus 10, and that gives me 84 degrees. So the answer is D. So we've got to make sure that we are answering the question being asked. Number 6 through 8, I remember telling you guys in class that I needed to see work there because it would require work to do. So we have two, it tells you that the two triangles are congruent. ABC is congruent to CDA. So it's looking at the two triangles. Find each value. So we can use that congruent statement to help us. So if ABC is congruent to CDA, we need to solve for Y first. AB is congruent to CD. So that's this side is congruent to this one. Okay? And so we can set those two equations equal to each other to solve for Y. I'm actually doing number 7 before number 6. Sorry about that. So 15 minus 4Y equals 3Y plus 1. Get your variable on one side. So 15 equals 7Y plus 1. Subtract 1 from both sides. 14 equals 7Y. Divide by 7, so Y equals 2. So number 7 should have been 2. Now I'll go back to number 6. Sorry, I skipped it. So number 6 wants us to solve for X. So X is, in this equation, part of this angle right here. This angle is congruent to this angle. We have angle BCA, which would be congruent to angle DAC. So they are congruent to each other. So 2x minus 3 equals 47. A lot of people just put 47 for number 6. That's not true because it doesn't say what's the measure of the angle. It says what's x. So add 3 to both sides. So 2x equals 50. Divide by 2, x equals 25. So that is number 6. Okay. And if we look on number 8, it says find each value. And so one thing that a lot of people did was they told me side CD or line segment CD was congruent to line segment AB. That is incorrect. It didn't say to write the corresponding parts. It said to actually find the value. So I'm trying to find what is the length of CD. Well, I found that Y is 2, so I can plug in for Y 2. So 3 times 2 plus 1. So 6 plus 1 is 7. Sorry, trying to make this thing work still. And obviously I'm still figuring it out. Give me just a second. There we go. Now we have number 9. Decide whether the triangles are congruent or not. If so, state the postulate that proves it. Well, by reflexive property, this line is also congruent. So yes, these are congruent by side, side, side. Now number 10, I took 2 separate answers. If you said no, I took that as an answer because it does not state that the sides are parallel, and so I didn't think that that was a valid argument, honestly. And we talked about it in class. Now, if you marked on your quiz and you did say that these would have to be parallel because these are alternate interior angles, and then you named these as alternate interior, said yes, I did take that, but I really was looking for a no on that question. So that's the main answer I was looking for on that one. Complete the following proof. So if we start off, you can see by the number of points how difficult or easy something is. So look at what's given to you. The first part says AD is parallel to line segment BC. That is given right here. The other given statement that has not been put in here yet, if you look at the reasons like number 4, it says that AD, line segment AD, is congruent to line segment CB, which both of these things have already been marked on the image. Now, number 2 says that angle DAE, that would be this angle, is congruent to angle BCE. That would be this one. That's true by the alternate interior angle theorem. Or just alternate interior. I cannot write with this pen. I'm just going to, okay, alternate interior. Because they are parallel lines, so they're alternate interior angles, which means they are congruent. Then it says vertical angle theorem, which has to be these two because they're across from each other. So those are congruent to each other. Some people put just angle E is congruent to angle E. Remember we talked about the specificness of labeling those angles. Also, people did lose points because they put it in the wrong order. So angle AED is congruent to angle CEB. A lot of people wrote BEC and they lost a few points there. So we know now that we have a congruent angle, and then a side. It is not the included side, so it's angle side, not angle side angle. Okay, and the last problem, complete the following proof. If we start off by just labeling our picture, so it says PQ bisects angle SQR. So if PQ, which is this line, bisects the angle, the big angle SQR, that means that I'm going to have two congruent angles right there. One here, here. Those are going to be congruent. This reason here would be that it's given. And then the next part says definition of an angle bisector. Well, I just labeled it. That angle SQP is congruent to angle RQP. Again, order matters. The next part says given, so that's just this right here. That angle S is congruent to angle R, which I'm going to label in my picture. Okay? Then the next part says PQ is congruent to PQ. That is this line right here. That's based on the reflexive property because they share the same side. They are adjacent. Okay, so now again I know angle, angle, and a side. An angle, angle, and a side. The side is not between the two angles. So it is not angle, side, angle. It is angle, angle, side.